There is a story all should hear.
A ghost, perhaps. You are the only ones who might believe.
A haunting thriller to chill the soul.
My sister is engaged. Willingly and happily to be married.
You and your sister are in very great danger.
Do not leave.
Laura, oh Laura, it was a bad dream.
There is a secret. What is it? It would destroy him.
Spellbinding drama for the Christmas season.
He can fight.
Tara Fitzgerald leads an all-star cast. The Woman in White begins tomorrow at 8:50 and concludes Monday at 9:30 on BBC1.
Just a perfect day.
I'll tell you what makes a good Christmas show.
Great animals in the zoo.
And then later, a movie too, and then home.
Stocking snow on the credits and copping off with someone you shouldn't. For the perfect Christmas show, join Mrs. Merton tonight at 10:15 on BBC1.
Oh, what a perfect day.
Well, now, just before Birds of a Feather, an update on tonight's National Lottery draw. The 6 winning numbers are confirmed as 14, 21, 28, 31, 40 and 46, and the bonus number is 9. Early indications show that there are 3 jackpot winners, each winning just over £2.8 million. Some easy money for Sharon and Tracy now on BBC1, but nothing comes for free.
Monday on BBC1, a formidable cast proves there's more to costume drama than flowers and tight corsets in the final part of the thriller The Woman in White. Before that, there's skullduggery of a marital kind in EastEnders.
Keep away from me.
In Tiffany, I think you're with the wrong geezer. Can television really cause violence? Absolutely not. Or rather, yes, if we're talking about Auntie's New Winter Bloomers. And I'll be taking a look at the good, the bad and the downright ugly among this year's films. That's Monday evening from 8 o'clock on BBC1.
My mom always said life was like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
From crippled boy to football star and war hero, Tom Hanks is Forrest Gump.
Where were you hit?
In the buttocks, sir.
I'd kind of like to see that.
Go! What's your sole purpose in this army?
To do whatever you tell me, drill sergeant.
God damn it, Gump! You're a goddamn genius.
I just felt like running.
Forrest, I do love you.
She was my most special friend.
Winner of 6 Oscars, Forrest Gump. New Year's Day at 9 on BBC1.
Full of the Christmas spirit now on BBC1, and that's just the audience. It's the nation's favourite granny. Mrs. Merton returns for a new series in the new year.
Shirley Bassey, as you've never seen her before.
I've been standing in this gown for nearly 3 hours. I love these glasses. I love it. I get a kiss every man.
On tour with the bombshell from Tiger Bay.
It's incredible.
Shirley Bassey, Friday at 10:05 on BBC1.
Okay.
Sunday on BBC1 at 5:10 Antiques Roadshow, The Next Generation.
Which one's your favourite?
That one.
At 6:15,
I shoot the devil of all the good music.
Cliff brings rock and roll to Songs of Praise. And at 7,
does he think he can flee from Truly of the Yard?
Compo and Clegg put their best feet forward in Last of the Summer Wine. A host of Christmas specials, Sunday evening on BBC1.
Graham Lasso and Matthew Corbett and Sooty join the regulars for a festive edition of They Think It's All Over in 20 minutes. The main evening news first on BBC1 with Edward Surton.
An appeal for calm from the Northern Ireland Secretary after the murder of a loyalist paramilitary leader. Billy Wright was gunned down in the Maze prison by Republican inmates. Retailers pin their hopes on the sales after a disappointing Christmas season. And the public get a chance to pass judgment on the work of the restorers at Windsor Castle. Good evening. The terrorist group, the Loyalist Volunteer Force, has vowed to widen its campaign after the death of its leader, Billy Wright. King Rat, as he was known, was shot 5 times in the back inside the Maze prison. 3 men are now being questioned by police. The Northern Ireland Secretary, Mo Mowlam, has appealed for calm, but tonight one bus and several cars have been hijacked and set on fire. Our Ireland correspondent Dennis Murray reports.
This is one of the most secure prisons in Europe. Yet inside it today, inmates from a Republican group were able to use guns to murder the leader of a loyalist group. Tonight, 2 major investigations are underway here by the police and the prison service. Billy Wright was shot dead in this van. 2 bullet holes can be seen in the right side windows. It was taking him to the visiting area when his killers tore open the back doors and shot him from close range. The Maze prison's made up of a number of H blocks, each like a mini prison. One wing of H6, where Billy Wright was killed, is occupied by the INLA, a Republican splinter group. The other by his own Loyalist Volunteer Force. The INLA gunmen climbed onto the roof of their wing, jumped down to where the van was waiting and singled out Billy Wright. The murder raises 2 chief questions. On security, just how were the guns smuggled into the jail? And wider, what are the consequences for the peace process? Billy Wright, who'd been attacked by the IRA in the past, appeared on the same platform as the then MP William McRae at a rally last year, after he'd been put under death threat by the other loyalist paramilitaries, something he spoke about at the time.
Do you feel that you can't be killed?
Oh, everyone can be killed. Everyone. Everyone. I think that would be very hard to justify.
Billy Wright was also known as King Rat, a guise he used in a number of media interviews as the leading loyalist terrorist in the Mid-Ulster area. Loyalist politicians called for restraint and no retaliation.
The forte in this society previously has been for knee-jerk reactions. Knee-jerk reactions often give your enemy exactly what they want. I think that loyalism has been aware of impending activity from the INLA and will have been ready for something, but certainly not this.
This year at the Maze prison, there have been riots by loyalists, an attempt at a mass Republican breakout, and the actual escape of a double IRA murderer just 3 weeks ago.
It was unbelievable that the like of this could happen, but I mean, we have been saying for quite a number of months now the situation at the Maze needs seriously looked at, and surely somebody now is going to say somewhere enough's enough, and let's have a proper inquiry on to see how the Maze has been run and what's actually happening down there.
The whole situation has led to unionist calls for the Northern Ireland Secretary to resign.
Security in the jail has become a mockery insofar as the Secretary of State is so keen to provide confidence-building measures as payment of ransom to the IRA to keep them at the table of democracy that she has allowed things to fall into total chaos.
But Mo Mowlam said that at this stage it was not a resignation matter, and she outlined what she hoped the consequences for the peace process would be.
This was not just an attack on a fellow prisoner. It is an attack on the peace process itself. It is a stark reminder of what the talks are trying to take us away from, a horrifying glimpse of the past. I believe it's up to us all now to resolve to do everything in our power to press on with the search for agreement at the talks table.
That's certainly the government's hope, that the politicians will react to the murder as they have done on occasions in the past, concentrating on agreement to prevent more deaths. But today, murder at the Maze prison provided a bleak reminder of a violent past at the end of a year which had been offering so much hope for the future. Dennis Murray, BBC News, at the Maze prison.
The winter sales have started in earnest, and shopkeepers are pinning their hopes on some brisk business to make up for the disappointing pre-Christmas period. As Virginia Eastman reports, retailers are counting on bargain hunters to buy up £3 billion worth of unsold stock over the next few weeks.
For those who couldn't face yet another festive lunch today, it was time to return to that other seasonal activity, shopping. In Leeds, these people would rather queue for a bargain than face one more mouthful of turkey. But early indications are that on the high street, all over the country, including the capital, it's not been a bumper Christmas.
There's less people queuing. I was one of the first here, and I got here about 9:15. And usually it's about an hour before that the queues start building up.
13% of annual sales for retailers go through the tills at Christmas time. This year, the Centre for Economics and Business Research believes £3 billion worth of goods will be carried over into the January sales. Customers have been trained to expect that the longer they wait to buy, the less they'll have to pay.
I think we've changed our buying habits, and to a degree, retailers have only got themselves to blame. After all, the later the rush comes, the more retailers one gets going on sale. The more retailers one gets going on sale, the more bargains there are. And what this message is really giving shoppers is, if you can only leave your shopping as late as possible, you'll get more for your money.
Goods sitting on shelves at the moment were bought by stockists 6 months ago when sales were buoyant. 5 interest rate hikes have done much to dampen the buying spirit. There's a growing concern among retailers that a last-minute spending spree will now be too little, too late. Virginia Eastman, BBC News, Brent Cross, London.
Drug addicts who commit crime to pay for their drugs may be ordered to undergo treatment as part of their sentence. The government is setting up a £1 million pilot scheme to deal with drug-related crime. A new report on offenders who receive treatment says 80% of them derive some benefit from it. Our social affairs correspondent Christine Stewart reports.
It's believed hundreds of thousands of burglaries and thefts are committed each year by offenders to feed their drug habits. New measures to be piloted early in 1998 aim to break the cycle by putting offenders on drug treatment programs as part of their sentence. If they fail to comply, they could face tougher penalties. The government says it's learned lessons from previous projects.
The probation work tends to be very effective when it's done in partnership with other organisations. It also reinforces the message that early intervention tends to be more effective than simply waiting until problems become more serious.
The government is encouraged by a report published today which suggests that 80% of offenders who receive treatment reduce or control their drug dependency. It's probation officers who will have direct contact with offenders.
Approximately a quarter of people that are supervised by probation services misuse drugs, and that's about 50,000 people. Our total caseload is just over 200,000.
While the initiative is welcomed by probation officers, they warn it will succeed only if it's properly resourced, and they say that will take much more than the £1 million allocated to pilot the project. Christine Stewart, BBC News at the Home Office.
The British government has called for the former president of Zambia, Kenneth Kaunda, to be charged or released. Dr. Kaunda, who's 73, is being detained by the Zambian authorities following claims he was involved in a failed coup. He's now reported to be on hunger strike.
The last public sighting of Kenneth Kaunda as he was taken into custody on Christmas Day. The Zambian authorities say the arrest is in connection with an abortive coup in October, although no charges have yet been laid against the former Zambian president. Mr. Kaunda was abroad when a small group of junior army officers failed in their attempt to seize control of the state broadcasting station. The rebellion was quickly put down, and in a recent BBC interview, Mr. Kaunda denied that he'd wanted to see the government overthrown in a coup.
I would not accept that, I would not accept that at all. Two wrongs don't make a right. They don't, in any shape or form.
As head of state for 27 years, Kenneth Kaunda was a well-known figure on the world stage. He hosted the 1979 Commonwealth Conference in Lusaka. But the pressure for multi-party democracy led to his defeat at the polls 6 years ago. Mr. Kaunda accepted the end of his presidency with grace, but since then, in opposition, he's been a vocal government critic. His arrest under the current state of emergency has sparked grave concern.
The sad thing is that when Dr. Kaunda was defeated in the election, we all welcomed the advent of multi-party democracy. And I think it's important that we register our, not just concern, but a strong protest that the former head of state has been arrested with no charge and is held in detention.
President Nelson Mandela, who's an old friend, has called on the Zambian authorities to charge or release Mr Kaunda in the interests of Zambia and the region. Peter Biles, BBC News.
The electricity companies Norweb and Manweb say they've reconnected the vast majority of homes in the northwest of England and North Wales, which had power cuts over Christmas. Thousands of homes had been cut off, some since Tuesday. A few hundred in the Lake District in Lancashire still have no power. Norweb and Manweb received a number of complaints from customers who accused them of reacting too slowly and not keeping them informed. Nearly 60,000 pistol shooters have handed in their guns, along with 700 tons of ammunition in the 3 months since the ban on handguns came in. But, as our Home Affairs correspondent Jane Peel reports, some of them have found an imaginative way to deal with the ban. They've taken up shooting with 18th century antiques.
Being processed at a Ministry of Defence site in Essex, 63 tons of ammunition, the amount collected by just 4 police forces. It's checked to ensure only handgun cartridges have been given up. Incredibly, armour-piercing machine gun ammunition has found its way into this batch. Once sorted, it's loaded into blast-proof steel trays, ready for disposal in a furnace which has had to be adapted to cope with civilian as well as military ammunition. With the temperature inside carefully controlled, the bullets behave as if they were in a gun.
You get this very rapid and big build-up of gas inside the cartridge case as the propellant inside the case functions, which causes an explosion, which throws the bullet head out very violently. So you've got all these thousands of things inside the tray, which are going bang, 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 bang in very quick succession.
700 tons, that's around 56 million rounds of ammunition, will eventually end up like this, scrap metal to be recycled. But as the bullets are destroyed, shooters who feared their sport would suffer the same fate are finding new ways to pursue their hobby. This is how they did it in Dick Turpin's time, and how they're starting to do it again. Antique pistols and their modern copies escaped the handgun ban, partly because criminals aren't attracted to muzzle-loading guns that are slow to load. The combination of gunpowder and lead ball isn't always successful either. And when it works, it's not that accurate. But it's all the pistol shooters have.
We've seen a lot of people taking up muzzleloaders. Our membership has gone from just under 2,000 to nearly 2,500 in the last 4 or 5 months, and I expect more people would take up muzzleloading shooting.
This represents an English dueling pistol made somewhere.
Training lectures at the association's Bisley headquarters in Surrey are attended by shooters from all over the country, desperate to keep their own pistol clubs from closing.
Well, I'm down from Newcastle and I've been shooting pistols for 15, 20 years. Muzzle loading is the only form of pistol shooting that's left, so I'm down here today to learn about pistol shooting, to learn about muzzle loading pistol shooting, to take back the knowledge to my club so that our members can carry on continuing with the sport that they enjoy.
Other forms of the sport, such as clay pigeon shooting, are also reporting renewed interest. Shooters who've spent years perfecting their skills are refusing to be beaten. Jane Peel, BBC News.
There was no football programme in England today, but in Scotland, second-place Celtic were beaten. George O'Boyle scored the goal for St Johnstone that condemned Celtic to their 5th league defeat of the season. Celtic have been overtaken in the table by Hearts. Jim Hamilton scored the first of their 3 goals at Dunfermline. Highlights of the match between Rangers and Dundee United can be seen by viewers in Scotland after this programme. If you don't want to know the result, look away now. The Manchester United player Karol Poborski has left Old Trafford to join Benfica. Poborski played 48 times for United, scoring 6 goals, but has made the starting lineup only 3 times in the league this season. He joined United from Slavia Prague 18 months ago after impressive performances for the Czech Republic during Euro '96. Racing an Earth Summit at 25-1 has won the Welsh National at Chepstow 3 years after his victory in the Scottish Grand National. The 9-year-old has only recently returned from a year's absence due to injury, but was still strong enough to hold off the challenge of Dom Samurai. The winning jockey, Tom Jenks, was later banned for 4 days for misuse of the whip. In Rugby Union's Allied Dunbar Premiership, the bottom club Bristol has suffered its worst ever league defeat at home. Newcastle beat them by 50 points to 8 at the Memorial Ground.
A fixture that put Rugby's poor up against Sir Rich briefly looked capable of providing a Christmas fairy tale ending when Dave Twatey gave Bristol, facing financial crisis, the lead. But wealthy Newcastle's charity ended there. And instead, the match turned into a demonstration of just what money can buy in rugby these days. Gary Armstrong levelled the score within 4 minutes, and a try from Pat Lamb helped the visitors establish a 10-point half-time lead. That, though, was little compared with what was about to follow. Graham Child's score in the 58th minute signalled the end of Bristol's resistance. And from then on, it was just a question of how many tries Newcastle would score. The final tally of 8, rounded off when Gary Armstrong completed a hat-trick, left Bristol contemplating a record 42-point home defeat. They stay marooned at the bottom of the table. Newcastle go to the top. James Pearce, BBC News.
Windsor Castle has opened its doors to the public for the first time since it was devastated by a fire 5 years ago. Visitors can now see St George's Hall and the state apartments, which have been restored at a cost of £37 million.
This was the first chance for the public to see Windsor Castle restored to its full splendour, and from early morning the response was enthusiastic. Inside the historic St George's Hall, years of careful restoration work was on show. More than 200 contractors and thousands of craftsmen and women had completed the project well within budget. In 1992, the fire had left this part of the castle as little more than a blackened ruin. Much of the £37 million cost was met by charging visitors to both the castle and Buckingham Palace, money which the palace said today had been well spent.
When you consider there has been a castle on this site for over 900 years, it has been a royal residence for over 900 years, it is a very major part of Britain's heritage, and therefore it had to be restored, it had to be rebuilt. It couldn't be left just to lie in ruins.
The first visitors to get a glimpse of the newly restored state apartments today were clearly impressed by what had been achieved.
We've been coming to Windsor Castle for a lot of years, and this is a very, very exciting room to look at now. The restoration is superb.
This is awesome. That would be a normal American word, awesome.
Before the restoration, Windsor Castle was attracting more than 1 million people a year, a figure that now seems certain to increase. Gary Duffy, BBC News, Windsor.
The main news tonight, political leaders in Northern Ireland have appealed for calm following the shooting of a loyalist terrorist, Billy Wright, in the Maze prison. That's all from the BBC Newsroom tonight. Good night.
Good evening. Well, the weather has certainly calmed down since Christmas, but just take a look at this for New Year's Eve. Yes, that means more very windy weather will be heading our way to blow us into 1998. Now, tonight's a different problem, a lack of wind and clear skies causing some problems in central and eastern parts of the British Isles where there could be some ice on the roads from some late showers. Now, the frost is going to be rather patchy, but the showers have been rather patchy today, or at least through the last 24 hours. Quite a bit of wet weather across northwestern parts of England, but you can now see that most of the showers are restricted to these more western areas, and I think that's where they'll stay overnight. But some damp roads further into the east could well lead to those icy patches, perhaps even some fog in southern England by the end of the night. Now, tomorrow, this weather front here will cause problems for Northern Ireland and also northwest England. Once again, could get quite a lot of rain, some quite heavy rain moving across from the province into northwestern England through the day, and clouds thickening up further south as well. Probably the brightest weather for much of the day will be up in Scotland in between the showers there, and temperatures tomorrow between about 6 and 10 Celsius across the British Isles. Then as we head to 1998, well, the isobars start to tighten up, those weather fronts start to head our way, so it's going to be a wet and a windy start to a new year. It'll be a chilly start to Monday, though, with some fog around, but that'll give way to this wet and windy weather racing in from the west in time for New Year's Eve. That's it.
It's not as if there's a guidebook for parents.
Phone calls? Absolutely forbidden.
Are your ears burning?
Yes.
Oh, wives.
Would
you like to go to bed?
Yes, please. Our husbands.
Do you get much in the way of road rage in Cheltenham?
I don't think I packed a hot water bottle. It's a case of get on with it and be as tactful as possible.
She is having an affair. What turkey? Anyone?
Cold enough for snow. New Year's Eve at 9 on BBC1.
Martin Clunes.
I'd never met an elephant before. Well, you don't, do you? Not if you grew up in Wimbledon, anyway.
Takes a trip he'll never forget.
So the plan is to release Nina back to the wild. No one has ever released a fully grown tame elephant before. The more distressed Nina gets, the more dangerous the operation will be. In this baking 40-degree heat, it was a real struggle moving a 3-ton elephant by hand.
Born to be Wild, New Year's Day at 8 on BBC1.
After banana, and what for pudding? Yes, banana.
It's the climax to BBC Two's Natural History Night in just under 5 minutes, when the winner of tonight's competition gets to choose the final programme of the evening. Dr. Nookie will be doing the rounds here on BBC1 in 35 minutes. Classic film comedy in Carry On Again, Doctor. Before that, a festive greeting from Nick Hancock.